This is the 13th video in this series working with the MakeHuman model in Blender. And in the next few videos I'm going to do what I can to make a quick walk cycle. In order to do that, I'm first going to need a floor. So I'll go into object mode, snap my cursor to... Actually, I'll just use Shift C to send my cursor to the origin. Add a bone. Add a cube. So used to building rigging now, adding bones to make a floor. I'll scale that along Z until it's just underneath the feet. Check from the side view to see what that looks like, and that looks okay. And I'll scale that out, this time limiting Z to make a floor. And do that again. Limiting Z so it doesn't get chubby. And that looks pretty good. So we'll go into pose mode with the rigging. First thing I want to do is develop a contact pose. And to do that, first I'll spread my legs. So I'll grab the first bone along the y-axis and move it by 2. The second bone I'll grab along the y-axis and move it by -2. And then I'll grab the pelvis, and I just want to drop that down so that the feet are touching the ground. And mostly my focus will be on the front foot, and I'll be able to tell it's on the ground because the leg will flex a little bit. So I'll drop that down until the knee gives a little bend, and call that grounded. Then I'll develop the pose a little finer. Grab the foot and rotate it up a bit. And then rotate those toes so they look more natural. The back foot I'll elevate somewhat. And then touch the toe to the ground. Select all the bones that I've manipulated here. And set a keyframe. So I'll set a keyframe at frame 1 of location and rotation, that's being the 2 changes I've made to the bones. Then I'll copy that pose, copy current pose. I'm going to make my walk cycle 40 frames long, so I'll go halfway through that to frame 21. Go into the pose dialog and paste that pose flipped. And that'll flip the pose around. And I'll set a location rotation keyframe there. And go to the end of my cycle at frame 41. And this time paste the original pose copied from frame 1. And set a keyframe there, location rotation. So with those 3 keyframes, I've started my walk cycle. The next thing I want to do is to start my model propelled forward. In order to do that, I'll select the balance bone. Key back to frame 1 and set a location frame for the balance bone at key 1. And the balance bone is the only one getting a key here because it's the only one selected. Then I'll key forward to 21. I'll grab that balance bone along the y-axis and move it by -4. And I come to the number -4 because initially I grabbed my feet and moved each of them by 2 and -2, which equals 4. Now I'll set a location keyframe for that there. And go forward to frame 41. In frame 41, I'll do the same process. I'll grab my model along Y and move it by -4. Drop it there and set another location frame. Now when I frame back, my model will be walking. The motion isn't perfect. There's a considerable amount of sliding at the feet. And the only cure that I found for this is by entering the IPO editor. So I'll split my area here and turn one into the curve editor. Select the balance bone, go into pose mode, into the pose IPO. Look at the appropriate curve, which is location Y. Select all with the A key, which will highlight the curve. Then I'll come down into the curve dialog, and I want to use smooth IPO curves. And when I press that, we'll be able to see this curve change shape. So I'll smooth IPO curves. The curve will be altered. And as a result, so will the motion of the model. And the motion isn't perfect. Perhaps it's even a little bit on the herky-jerky side. But it is better. And we could try making other changes. Perhaps try changing the interpolation mode. We could try constant. I don't think that's going to work out. And we could try linear. That's more of a straight line kind of motion. We could see what that works like. That has a considerable amount of sliding to the feet. And then there's visor. And I've experimented with these, and really the best result that I've gotten is from just plain old smoothing the IPO curves. And perhaps finer tuning the editing on those would clean up that motion quite a bit. Now from here we need to refine our walk cycle, and how we'll do that is we'll address the walk cycle between frame 1 and frame 21. And make adjustments and set keyframes every 5 frames. And that's part of the reason I pick a round number for my walk cycle, where 10 frames is a quarter of the cycle, and 20 is half, and 5 is an eighth. Because it mathematically works out better. It makes it easier to set up poses at regular intervals. So in the next video, I'll start by going forward to frame 6, developing a pose for it, frame 11, frame 16, and frame 21 is already covered. So basically we have 3 frames that we need to refine the pose on, and then we'll copy poses to the other half of the walk cycle to clean it up, and look at what we can do with that action from there. So that'll be in the next video, and until then, happy modeling.